What's up, football fans and draft dorks? Football Grump here. I returned from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama a couple weeks ago, and I immediately got to work gathering my notes to make a Senior Bowl biggest winners video. But the editing in that is going to be so intensive, and that whole process is going to take a while. So I'm putting that video on the back burner so that I can continue on my 2024 draft positional breakdown. So we've already hit my initial thoughts on the 2024 quarterback, so we're moving on to offensive tackle. I gathered some of the top names out there and got to work. Just a reminder, follow me on Twitter for more of my shit. Hit the subscribe button if you're new and tell a friend about this video. And we're off. My number one graded tackle in this draft class is Olu Fashanu, 6'5", 6'6", 320 pounds from Penn State. He just looks the part, man. He looks like a plug-and-play left tackle for me. He looks like he's going to be graded in a top 5 range for me as well. Really good lateral kick step. He's got a solid anchor underneath him, plays with good pad level. He's got fast feet. Don't let the fact that Penn State can't run an offensive play deter you from watching number 74. Really, really solid hands. Really strong kid as well. Plays with good pad level and good leverage. He keeps up with the defender throughout the life of the play. Doesn't give up on the play. I really, really like the way that he plays in the passing game. Got strong hands, and he's an accomplished hand fighter as well. He's good at breaking hands off of his chest and dealing with stunts like spin moves like that. He's experienced, he's played for a long time, and I think, honestly, that he could step right in and play left tackle right away in the passing game especially, but I would say even in the running game. He's had to face a lot of tough competition in the Big Ten, so, you've already dealt with that. I'm not sure he's going to have a whole lot of struggles at the next level, and I would say that he's a really intelligent player. He handles stunts and twists really well. He's really good at getting hands out fast and onto it and into the defender's chest quickly. In the run game, one of the things I really like is his leg drive. He gets his hands into guys and starts turning his legs quickly. He plays with pretty decent pad level, but he plays with really good leverage. He understands to come from the bottom up and just work everything through his legs. And honestly, when it gets down to the draft, that is the difference. That's the main difference between guys who function as blockers and guys who are good run blockers. So Olu Fashanu for me, the number one graded tackle, and it's really not particularly close at all. I don't think that there's another tackle worthy of a top 5 pick, and I don't think that there's one that even comes too close. I think the next one for me is going to be graded around the teen range. So, yeah, Olu Fashanu stands alone for me. And surprisingly enough, number 2 tackle on my list was Talisia Fuaga from Oregon State. Right tackle. I did not expect this kid to be number 2. He's certainly not ranked 2 for a lot of guys, but I really like the movement skills in the passing game especially. He can get out really quickly out of his stance into a spot to cut off defenders from going around the outside edge. He's a little bit undisciplined with that at times and can wind up turning and chasing and doing some goofy shit we'll see later in this, but he's got a strong and sturdy base as well. He's really good at anchoring. In his lateral kick step, he doesn't get skinny too often. He can click his heels at times, but generally keeps a nice solid base underneath him and anchors well. Plays with some pretty decent pad level as well. But if he could just learn to be a little bit disciplined with his feet and not overrun things and do goofy shit like that, he'd be a lot better in the passing game. But a strong, solid anchor, some pad level stuff, and he's going to be a much better tackle at the NFL level. I think it's really going to come down to just coaching. He's got a mean streak in him, as you saw right there, and it translates to the run game. He likes to get down and into guys' chests and keep his legs moving. It's really good to see. He doesn't give up on a play either. He'll keep it rolling for quite a while. In the run game, he does play with some pretty decent pad level. He gets his hands in there pretty good. But I think one of the things that really impresses me, and I think impresses a lot of NFL scouts out there and GMs, is his movement skills. He works combination blocks really well. He's really good at
getting to the second level and playing in the open field, as well as just blasting open holes. But his ability to squeak through holes like that and drive a guy for several yards and hit DBs on the move is not an easy one. He does have some superior movement skills for an offensive tackle for a big guy at 6'5" and 332 pounds. It's really impressive, and I think that that's something that the NFL covets. I think that it's something that NFL coaches like to use tackles on poles like that and getting up to the second level and sealing guys off. He looks really good in the open field. I was surprised that my number 3 graded tackle was Joe Alt from Notre Dame, 6'8", 320 pounds. He's certainly not most people's number 3. I've seen him as high as number 1, and you can see why. Sometimes 6'8", he's got overwhelming size. He's certainly an intelligent player, handles stunts and twists pretty well. He moves pretty well for a big guy, but I do think that his lateral step is kind of clumsy and wacky, and it's slow at times. Really good at handling those twists, but I think he can get overrun pretty easily. One of the things that's most egregious for me is the base and the anchor for me is bad. Way too often he's using those long arms to initiate contact, and then he starts leaning, and you can see here his head way too often is being placed way above his feet, way beyond his feet, and leaning into defenders. And a lot of times what happens is he winds up on the ground, or he holds, because you got to resort to kind of grabbing and leaning when hands are in your chest and throwing you off balance, and a guy breaks off of you and you're leaning into him. Your instinct is either going to be to fall over or to grab onto him to stay up, and either one of them is bad. In the run game, I think it's even worse, because he really plays with his head above his feet way too much. He just doesn't fire at the right stance, so he ends up on his ass a lot of times. I don't know. I think that the natural strength is there. He understands where to put his hands and all that stuff. I think he knows how to play tackle. He knows how to play offensive line, but the leaning issue is really, really bad, and it needs to get cleaned up. I do think that he's going to probably be plug and play. He might struggle for a little bit.
Next up, we have J.C. Latham, a 6'6", 360-pound right tackle from Alabama. I actually think he's very solid in pass protection, and I think he plays with some good pad level and a strong, sturdy base. I think he's got a good foundation to sink his hips and anchor. And he's got some decent speed in mirroring rushers with his lateral step, but I do think that he slows down over time, and over broken plays can kind of break down. In the run game, I think he's got good leg drive, but I do think that he's more of a hole opener than he is a road grader. After him, we have Troy Fautanu from Washington, left tackle, 6'4", 315 pounds, and I'm positive that I have pronounced his last name wrong. He also spent some time as a left guard. I think he lacks the ideal size to play tackle at 6'4", but generally most of his issues are in the pad level department. I think he's got a sturdy base, but the anchor suffers from the pad level. And I think he does a pretty good job with his hands, but he can resort to clamping down when he's trying to recover, oftentimes due to balance issues. And I think he's got some pretty good feet. He can sometimes leave the inside pathway open. In the run game, he mostly stalemates because of that poor pad level and leverage, but he does have the strength to stalemate. I don't think he moves to the second level well, though. So he's kind of got a late day one pick for me. In day two, I'm kind of grading Amarius Mims from Georgia, 6'7", 340-pound tackle. I just don't know what to do with him. He looked like a pretty good prospect. There's just not that much film on him. He didn't play that much throughout his career at Georgia. Then he got hurt this year, and he missed a bunch of time. And honestly, I'm just not sure how to grade him yet. It's still a little early, and I didn't want to linger on it, spending this much time on one prospect. But he did a lot of good things on tape, and I'm just going to throw him a day two grade for now, and I just wanted to get him out of the way first. But next I have Kingsley Suamatea from BYU, 6'4", 329-pound tackle. I think he plays pretty well in pass protection, but way too tall. Pad level needs to come down. He's got a lot of natural strength that's also held back by some poor leverage. but he's got good hands. He's got fast feet out of his stance. He's a little slow to react to short area quickness, but otherwise he's got fast feet. It's really just a pad level thing for me with him. In the run game, he's a strong leg driver. He's got natural strength. Again, the pad level is going to affect his run blocking, which is otherwise good. He is a little clumsy in the open field, though.
One guy I have graded in day 2 that I want to show you guys is Patrick Paul from Houston, 6'7", 333-pound left tackle. I really like the way that he plays in the run game because he churns his legs. He plays with some pretty damn good pad level for a guy his size as well. And he's got really, really long arms to initiate contact. But I like the way that he just puts the strength and the weight behind himself and starts moving his legs. He's got a lot of want to in him, and I think that there are a lot of intangibles with this guy, and I've done only a little bit of reading up on him, but he seems like a guy who's going to be an incredibly hard worker. In the passing game, I think that he plays with really good anchor, and I think that he's got obviously the kind of size that you want. It's really an ideal body type to play left tackle. He's got a wingspan comparable to Tyron Smith. He's even taller than Tyron Smith. And I think that while on tape you'll see some struggles with his lateral step and it at times looks slow, he's certainly slow out of his stance. It's something I've noticed. But the lateral step being slow almost feels like it's coming from a place of insecurity at times and in trust. And I think that the natural quickness and speed is there for him. He doesn't fall for things easily. He's an intelligent guy. And I think that it's just going to come down to woodshedding that lateral kick step and working with a good O-line coach. So that he doesn't develop any bad habits and he can work out any bad habits that he already has. I think that Patrick Paul, he's risen through the ranks at Houston. He was a team captain. I have a feeling that any issues that there are with him, and there certainly are issues like struggling to get hands off of his chest like that, I think can be worked out because I think he's a high character guy and I think he's got a lot of good work ethic.
Moving on to Tyler Guyton. He's a 6'7", 320-pound right tackle converted from tight end at Oklahoma. Was also a Senior Bowl guy. In pass protection, the size and the strength are there, but the rest really does need work. The base is solid, the pad level is way too high, and that's affecting his anchor. He is 6'7", though. He's really fast out of his stance, and he's got quick feet, but that footwork is raw and all over the place. Sometimes when he's anchoring, his outside leg can get really, really, really wide and affect his balance. In the run game, he's got some lower body strength, but he doesn't really drive his legs like I'd like him to. He's got some pretty good movement skills, of course, probably coming from his tight end experience, but he needs to run a little bit more under control. I'm not sure if he's used to running with all the weight that he's probably had to put on, but he looks a little out of control in the open field. And last guy I have a day 2 grade on is Christian Jones from Texas, 6'5", 318 pounds. I think he plays with a sturdy base. He's got a strong lower body. He's got aggressive hands that I really like. But he does play with his head down and leaning far too often for my taste. And because of that, his recoverability suffers. He ends up struggling because he's grabbing and leaning a lot of times, and when he has people breaking off of him, he's already grabbing and leaning onto them, so it leads to holding penalties. He's got to clean that up. He's got to get his head up. He's got to get his pads a little bit lower, and he's got to play with his head, not leaning into people. In the run game, I think he's got natural strength. He's really good at driving his feet, but his head is down and beyond his feet way too often as well. It's really just the one issue for him. He's got to clean it up. Moving into day 3, I think you can spend an early day 3 pick, and I think you might even sneak into day 2. Somebody like Jordan Morgan from Arizona. He just might be a better candidate on the inside. It's really just kind of a height thing. In the pass game, he's got the quick feet to get out of his stance and to his place. He's got a really good ability to mirror. He guards the inside lanes well. The pad level and anchor isn't really that strong. That could get better. I'm curious about his arm length and how it stacks up at the combine among the other tackles. I'm thinking that it might be on the shorter side. He also struggles to break some hands off of his chest. In the run game, I actually think he has some pretty good leg drive. I think he moves well in the open field into the second level. He does play with his head beyond his feet at times as well, though. But, he's one of those guys that's kind of a tweener. I'm not sure if he's going to end up on the inside or the outside, or if maybe his versatility is what gets him, that might move him up if he can show he can hang as a tackle. Similarly, we have Satoa Laumea, the 6'4", 311-pound right tackle and formerly right guard from Utah. Again, another name I'm positive I am mispronouncing. He looks like a better pass blocker than a run blocker to me, but he has the speed and athleticism to hang at tackle. He doesn't really have the height or length for it. I think when things are straight up, he's got a pretty good anchor. Again, lending kind of a hint that he might be better fit on the inside. His pad level is pretty decent, and his base is strong, though. He's well built. I guess it's going to come to whether his feet show that he can hang on the outside or not. In the run game, I'd like to see better pad level and leg drive. There's not a lot of strength there. He does have the good movement skills. He's another interesting guy. I think that he could probably hang at right tackle in the NFL, but again, versatility. He might move to the inside. I'm not exactly sure. One day three guy that I'm not seeing anybody else talk about is right tackle Roger Rosengarten from Washington, 6'5", 311 pounds. I really like how quick his feet are. He really looks sturdy too. He plays with a pretty decent base. I think that the footwork needs some work, but otherwise he looks like a pretty solid tackle to me. I guess theoretically he covered the blind side for Michael Penix. He handles the anchor well. Most of these clips, naturally from it being Washington, these are going to be pass blocking clips, but he's able to recoil pretty well and sink his hips and gather in bull rushers pretty impressively. He does have quick feet though, and that allows him to get to prevent people from getting to the edge before him. It's a little bit undisciplined, and when he opens his hips, he can panic, get a little bit into turn and chase mode at times. He is a day three guy, in my opinion. He has some balance issues as well. I think he could play with better pad level, but I don't think he plays with bad pad level. The thing that is most important with that is that he does understand leverage and how to play with it. So the pad level thing is more like, especially since it's not bad, it's just, mediocre. The pad level thing for me is more like he could be even better when it comes to, if he can get his pad level to improve. You can see he's a smart guy. He's not fooled by stunts and blitzes like that. He understands what's happening in front of him. In the run game, he does move his feet. He could generate better leg drive if he had better pad level, but I do think he needs to gain some lower body strength. More importantly, I think he's really good with his movement skills in the open field and getting to the second level. He's really athletic. Moving on to Javon Foster, 6'5", 319-pound left tackle from Missouri. He's, interesting because I have him as a day three grade, but he doesn't really do anything particularly badly. Solidly built, he's got a strong base, he's got a strong anchor, he can stonewall defenders, but kind of weak with the lateral movement department, a little slow to react to quicker defenders. That short area quickness might be a big problem for him. In the run game, I think leg drive and pad level definitely need some work. I think he struggles to line up his helmet at times when blocking in the run game, and he is definitely not athletic in the open field to the second level. I just think that he is a very blah prospect. There's just nothing to write home about, and I don't want to spend a day two pick on a guy that just looks kind of blah. Next up, we have Blake Fisher, 6'6", 312-pound right tackle from Notre Dame. Built sturdy, lower body is a little bit clumsy though. His lateral step is slow and it's clunky. He kind of reminds me of a phone booth interior offensive lineman, which is not a compliment. He does have good anchor at times, but bad feet, balance issues, they sabotage most of his anchors. His hand fighting is raw, and general recoverability is just kind of poor. In the run game, he doesn't generate drive or move his feet well. He's weaker than he looks. At 6'6", 312, he just doesn't do it for me, and I think he moves sluggishly in the open field. I'm not really sure what Blake Fisher... He looks like a project to me. And rounding out our list here is Kieran Abagaji from Yale, 6'5", 330-pound offensive tackle. Guy from Yale came across my board. I decided I wanted to check him out, and with the size like that, I had to. But underwhelming across the board for me. He failed to impress even slightly against Holy Cross defenders that were about half his size. Any success he does have, seems minimal. It's mostly attributable to that size advantage in the competition that he played in. I think that it's just the fact that he lacks strength, he lacks the aggression, and he lacks the want to. The size is there. I'm sure the athleticism is workable, but he's highly underdeveloped in all the other areas, I think, and I guess he's worthy of a late round flyer, but for my money, I feel like there's somebody else that's showing me more. Just as a reminder, all the clips in this video are courtesy of Do a Barrel Roll on YouTube. Follow him on there, on Twitter, and support him on Patreon. That's it for this one. See you guys next Monday morning for initial thoughts on interior offensive linemen.